The Resident Evil 1 remake is surely one of the best remakes of all times, and the gold standard for how remakes are supposed to be. It's known to do everything the original did better and only add new things, without cutting anything like some recent remakes are infamous for. But in opposite to the widely spread opinion, what did the original do better than the remake? Please keep in mind that this video only represents my own opinion and that you can disagree with my points. Apart from that, the Resident Evil remake is literally my favorite Resident Evil game, so my goal is not to hate on it. Better pacing. I needed around 5 hours for my first playthrough of the original, while I needed almost double of that for the remake, even though I played the original first. Part of this is that the remake added some content, like Lisa Trevor, and basically expanded all of the map. Another part of this is the added backtracking. For comparison, the original had less than 50 key items, while the remake has over 80. While I like most of the additions, this still causes the game to be a bit more tedious than it needs to be in certain parts, and causes a lot more of going back and forth between item boxes, because the inventory remains the same size but you need to carry more items around. For example, in the original you just need the herbicide from the storeroom to kill the plant in the greenhouse to obtain the armor key. In the remake you need to find the dog whistle first, then you need to go to the balcony and use it to get the imitation of a key, that you can then use to replace the armor key on the 3rd floor of the mansion. In my experience this gets less dramatic if you know what to do, but it takes out a lot of speed for someone who plays the game for the first time. Apart from that, the Crimson Heads also require additional backtracking. If you don't want them running around like crazy, you need to go back and forth between refilling the fuel canteen and burning the bodies. Of course, this is also heavily emphasized on a first playthrough, because new players won't know how to avoid them. More story choices. This is not as significant of a point, but I still wanted to include it. The original offers some very cool choices all throughout the game, and cutscenes change depending on the order you do some stuff. While the remake keeps a lot of this, it also cuts some choices. I miss especially the choice of waiting for Barry after the second yawn fight.
That's what I was going to say. Aren't you supposed to be going over the 1st floor, Barry?
And having the option to let Barry go with you in the cave is. The remake replaces these with a simple option to give him the gun back in that fight against Lisa Trevor, which isn't nearly as cool and doesn't have as much of an impact. Better difficulty curve. Although I said that I played the original before the remake, this is only half true. I started remake first, but after a short, confusing and arguably even frustrating first experience, I didn't play it again after I finished the original first, months later. This is because the beginning of the Resident Evil remake is the hardest part in the game by far. There's barely any ammo, barely any health items and a shitload of zombies. Apart from that, it is way harder to figure out what to do, especially for first time players who don't know that they need to examine everything. On the contrary, the original literally tells you to go past the big blue doors and everything after that opens up gradually.
Let's search for him separately. I'll check the dining room again.
Okay, I'll try the door on the opposite side.
This mansion is gigantic.
Apart from that, the remake pressures the player to kill as few zombies as possible to avoid Crimson Heads. This is especially relevant in the beginning where you can't burn them yet, and therefore making the beginning even more punishing if you didn't master the controls yet to dodge them all effectively. The original doesn't have Crimson Heads, so you can run around carefree just killing everything in your way. And while I like the inclusion of Crimson Heads, I definitely prefer the beginning parts of the original. Additionally, most bosses and some enemies are nerfed. For example, Yawn move is slower and has less attack range, and also there are less hunters. Apart from that, you can get the Magnum a bit earlier and easier in the remake. Overall, the weird difficulty that starts very hard and then gets much easier in the end is my biggest issue with the remake. It's manageable and I still enjoy the game massively, but it definitely hurts the first time experience. There are also a few nitpicks that I don't think are necessarily better, but I probably enjoyed the cheesy dialogue in the original more than the mediocre one from the remake.
Oh, Barry!
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right. Barry.
Barry.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich.
Really? Thanks.
And I would also argue that the soundtrack in the original is a bit more prominent. For comparison, here's a scene from the original. And the same from the remake. Well, do you agree with my points, and how do you view the changes made in the Resident Evil remake? Please let me know in the comments and make sure to subscribe as well as like the video. For anyone who is still watching, I have a new mic for this video, so please let me know if the quality is better than before. Thanks for watching and see you next time.